We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com.
Welcome to another edition of AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AVRant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. I have to try and remember how to do this because we had an unexpected week off last week. It is entirely my fault. I got sick.
I was still going to do the news and stuff because I think that was all written up already, and I was going to go back. I was going to go back and just do the news and do a little mini episode by myself. But then instead of doing that, I did a bunch of stuff around the house, which made my wife very happy. It made me very happy
when I told Tom on Tuesday morning, we record Tuesday mornings, last week Tuesday, because I did. Well, yeah, because I was like, I went to bed feeling sick, but not like so sick that I couldn't record. So I'm like, okay, I'll wake up in the morning, I'll work on the topic list. If I'm equally sick or slightly better, then that's fine, we'll proceed. And it's like, how sometimes you wake up and you cough up a bunch of phlegm, but then an hour or two later you're like, okay, I'm feeling reasonably okay. No, it went the other direction last week. I felt much worse about 2 hours after waking up, to the point like my throat was just shredded and I was so congested. I'm like, I just can't. It's not going to sound any good if I try to podcast like this. Plus I'm just feeling awful. So I called an audible and I was like, I'm aware that Tom has plenty to do, so I don't think he'll be that upset. And you know what? It all worked out not too bad because we had questions last week, but not like a huge number of questions. So I am sorry that we made people wait, 2 weeks instead of one. But there it is. It happens sometimes. And all in all, I think it worked out okay.
Yeah, I installed the fan that's in this room.
Okay.
So that was exciting for me. And did a bunch of cleaning and other stuff around here. Hopefully by this time next week, we will feel much more moved in. We're getting there. So I talked about the closet solution that we ordered and is on its way in. I don't think I talked about this on the podcast. It's happened in the last 2 weeks. Okay. So the lady who does this professionally, she told us to order from the Container Store or wherever it was because that's where she orders from and all of that. She just go get it from them and don't worry about it. And we said, okay. So we did that. And then she called and she was like, oh, have you guys ordered anything? And we're like, yeah, we have to talk to somebody about installing it because it takes installation. And again, I realize my limitations as a person and measuring twice and cutting once is not one of them. I measure twice, cut twice, go back to the store, buy a new one, and then start the process over again until I just give up. And
closet organizers should hopefully be a one-time installation that really doesn't get touched very much afterwards. So might as well just pay the professional to do it. Yeah.
So it was like, well, they offer a service to do it, but it's even the people there are like, listen, it's unreasonably expensive to have us do it for you. You should try it yourself first, or pay somebody else to do it. Okay. So we're like, yeah, we have to talk to we're going to talk to a handyman about that. And she said, no, I'll come do it. I'll do it. Oh, wow. I'll do it. I'll do it for you guys for free. And we're like, first of all, no, you won't, because we're going to definitely pay you something because this is way too much work. And but yeah, so it's supposed to arrive. Today's Tuesday. It's supposed to arrive tomorrow, Wednesday. Okay. And she's supposed to come on Friday. And I don't know if it'll be all installed, but if just mine is installed, just my closet is installed, that would be a huge benefit.
Yeah, see, now that might be the even better deal because like the materials themselves, you can absolutely get away with something that's, just mass produced but well produced, like a Container Store. It's like the installation is actually the more important part of it. So having a true professional like that do that at the very least, it sounds like you're going to get a discount. So that is pretty darn nice. That'll be all right.
So very excited about that. We got all the fans installed right now. So we have an ADU, which is additional dwelling unit that's above the garage that we were going to rent out as to help supplement the fact that we can't afford this house like at all. We never would have moved here if we had an option. So it didn't have a laundry installed in there. Sure. And that makes a huge difference in the how much you can charge for rent, and also the type of people that you will get as renters. I know, and from my wife and I standpoint, we're just like, listen, I wouldn't rent a place that didn't have a laundry, so it's got to have a laundry. So we're having a laundry install that should be done literally today. They're up there right now working on it. And, things are finally moving. Like my wife. So during this whole process, Facebook has they have a number of different groups, and one of them in the area is called the Buy Nothing group, which probably is everywhere, but there's a Buy Nothing group in our area, and what it basically does, people like, listen, I don't want this anymore. Do you want it? Whoever wants it can have it. And so we got a bunch of stuff off of that during beginning of us not having anything after everything being flooded. So she very much wants to pay it back or pay it forward by, supporting that and getting other people to have things that were basically given to us that we don't need anymore, or that we bought and we don't need anymore. So that meant that I had a whole corner of the house that was full of stuff that I would have just shoved in the back of my car and dropped off at like Goodwill or Salvation Army or something like that. And she's like, no, I want to do all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, it's going to take forever. Well, she went on the mass, posting spree on like Friday, and over the weekend, almost everything got picked up. So,
good.
I was like, oh God. And most importantly for this podcast, we bought a couch for the theater room. Ooh. So now we have a power reclining leather couch.
Oh, wow.
It's we shopped at like 4 or 5 different stores. We found one that we really liked, and then we're like, well, what colors does it come in other than white? They're like, well, it comes in gray. We're like, okay, we'll take gray. Well, it takes 6 months to get the gray. We're like,
gotcha.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. So, or my wife said we're not going to do that, and I was like, well, I don't care. We can sit on what we're sitting on.
White
right now.
can become gray if you treat it in a certain way.
Oh, the dogs will turn in a different color almost immediately.
Right,
yes.
Yeah.
So we ended up shopping at a couple of different places, and then the last couch that we bought that got flooded, we bought from a place called Kane's Furniture.
Okay.
I don't know if they're local. I don't know what they are. I don't think anything's local anymore. So we went there on like a lark on our way to go to someplace else. I was like, well, it's just Kane's right there. Let's just pull in. And she found the couch that she liked. All I care about is the size. Like,
right.
She's like, well, we can get one that's just as big as the one we have. I'm like, no, we cannot.
Did not sound like it.
It was
the couch might fit. No one else will.
Well, the couch gets in there, and you can get past it on one side if you turn to the side, and it's like maybe 20 inches of clearance there.
Lovely.
I'm like, we're not doing that. We need something a little bit. So it doesn't be a lot smaller and a little bit smaller, and we're short. Right, so we're both 5'6", 5'7". We can lie down on a fairly short couch, lengthwise.
Like a 3-seater couch can fit you.
So this ended up being a 2-seater, but they're freaking huge seats.
It's the 1.5 or double wide seats.
It's like double wide. So I think the couch itself is like 85 inches or something like that.
That's bigger than you were aiming for, I thought.
Yes. No, I wasn't. I was aiming for around between 80 and 90.
Oh, okay.
So this was right in that sweet spot. We have a little bit of space on the right side, a lot more space on the left side. It's comfortable enough. That leather feels very sturdy. And she's happy, and I'm happy, and the dogs all fit. So that's all that really matters.
Hooray!
So now we have a couch.
And being a 2-seat but double wide, both get to recline instead of having the seat in the middle that doesn't recline like so many sofas.
So our last couch, we had 3 seats that were a 1.5 each.
Right.
And then we had the middle seat was manual recline, and the side seats were power recline. And they do make armless power recline seats more commonly now, but the seats them, all those sectional sofas that are like that, getting the dimensions to work properly was problematic. So this is just a couch, but it really is 2 like very big recliners that are just stapled together, because there's 8 feet underneath this thing. There's 8 different feet. So there's 4 feet per chair, and it's very heavy apparently. But it's in there. It's in there.
Good.
We've got it. And you can see there's a ladder behind me. It's because I was installing a fan in here last week, and the ladder has not moved for a week. I was going to
say, we might just not mention that and let people on YouTube notice and wonder what the heck is going on. But everybody knows you're doing work around the house, so it's not that.
So that's
surprising.
why I did the ceiling fan in here, because the people we had doing ceiling. First of all, paying people to do ceiling fans is stupid. I don't know why I did that, but there were potentially issues that they could have run into that I didn't want to. I couldn't deal with, because a lot of the lights in here they're not attached to boxes. They have like spring-loaded dog ears, and they just have a wire running to them that you basically plug into the back of the light through a little box, and then they cut a hole in the ceiling, the drywall, and then they just dog ear up there.
Okay.
So if that is the case, then they have to install something for the fan to hang on to. Yeah. Because it doesn't hang on
the weight. You don't want it just the drywall edge.
Yeah. And then the other problem was that the ADU had a broken fan, and we don't know why it was broken, but it was broken since before we moved in, and it matched two of the fans that were downstairs that we did not want. We didn't want these fans. So we took both those fans down. They put one of them up in the ADU, which is a process I did not want to try to have to go through, because that sounded like it could go very sideways. And now we have an extra fan. It's in the box over there, just in case that one breaks.
It doesn't matter too much if the one out in the garage doesn't visually match what's in the house, especially if it's going to be someone renting and never coming in the house. So
So we are after they finished everything, I saw what was going on up there, because one of the fans, they did not have all the parts in the box. So I took it back to Home Depot, replaced it, and then got it. I mean, I don't understand why people do that, and it happens like a ridiculous amount.
It was a return.
Almost certainly it was a return. You could kind of, when I picked it up, when I bought it, I was like, this box looks like it's been retaped. Yeah,
getting stuff from the factory that doesn't have all the parts is not out of the question either. So
for sure. Well, so other than being sick this entire week, because you don't look great right now, to be honest with you, Rob.
I'm not 100% healthy, as you can probably hear, and yes, you can see if you're watching the YouTube version. Yes, other than that, I did have a reasonably I don't know what to call it, event that should be remarked upon, which is the day after we recorded last, so that's 2 weeks ago at this point. We had already scheduled a new evaluation for my aunt who has dementia, because as I mentioned, I'm looking to get her moved into long-term care. So we were going to have an evaluation from provincial healthcare done anyway. So that was going to be tomorrow, as we're recording this on the 14th. It was going to be on the 15th. But 2 weeks ago, on the Wednesday after we recorded last, basically we've got a standing order for my aunt to get blood tests done every 3 months. And so, lab called back like pretty late at night, saying they had detected much too high potassium levels in her blood. So hyperkalemia, which can be quite dangerous, but is typically a sign that your kidneys just aren't working quite right, which she has had kidney issues in the past. So that's not a gigantic surprise. So GP said, best precaution, go to the hospital. So she has been in the hospital for the past 2 weeks, which is a little bit strange, to be honest, because she stabilized really, really quickly, and I honestly kind of have my doubts about those lab results, to be 100% honest. I don't quite know what was really going on there, but basically because it was Thanksgiving, so pretty much this whole past weekend and yesterday being a holiday, like nothing really happened from the hospital, and we kind of thought she was going to get discharged last week, but they're like, she's been off her feet for like basically a whole week, because it takes 3 days to get out of the ER in our Canadian hospitals. There are definitely long waiting times to get onto a ward. So they're like, I want to work with her a bit more, get her moving a bit better, hopefully not have to use a walker, because she hasn't used a walker in the past. So it's all just been kind of everything's been delayed and prolonged and postponed. But seemingly nothing actually all that wrong. And I mean, much better safe than sorry. And I don't mind that she's under proper supervision.
So for every American that's listening to this, there's no insurance involved in this whole process, so they're not trying to.
There's nothing out of pocket. There's no insurance companies to talk to.
They're not trying to wring Rob out of a bunch of money, or Rob's family out of a bunch of money. They are actually concerned for the safety of the patients, which is not how it works here in America, in case you're wondering.
I mean, we don't dilly-dally.
That was my first thought. My first thought is, they're just trying to take you for as much. Well, wait.
No.
Socialized medicine. Forgot about that. Oops.
There's no out-of-pocket cost for any of this. 2 weeks stay in the hospital, right? Could be a financial burden in the the
literally
US.
could bankrupt people here. Yes.
Right. Even if you have insurance, it's something you got to think about. And at the very least, you're going to be doing some phone calls or online stuff with your insurance company. Absolutely none of that. And look, like I was going to say, we don't dilly-dally in our hospitals. If they can discharge you, they'll discharge you. We do not have enough beds. There are people lined up in the hallways, on the actual wards, and our ERs are packed to overflowing. So it's not that they're going to keep you around. But no, I mean, our whole thing is we have pretty regimented procedures for treatment. The doctors are rotated every 2 weeks, if not more frequently. So you get different eyes looking at, which has its pluses and minuses. But it means that if one person doesn't catch something,
good, I suppose.
Yeah, if one person doesn't catch something, somebody else might, and that happened. Last week they were getting ready to discharge her, sort of middle of the week, and a new doctor came on the rotation. He's like, there's something not quite right in her leg that we want to have a look at. So there you go. That's what it's been. So we don't actually know exactly when she's going to be discharged as I'm recording this now, but it's definitely expected this week. And we're going to have our family Thanksgiving dinner tonight. We didn't have it yesterday on the actual holiday. We're going to have it tonight. Yes, Canadian Thanksgiving comes a month early for our American listeners. And there you go. That's what's been going on.
All right. Should we talk about what we watched before we get into all the news?
I am not going to do world news stuff anymore because a couple of people liked it, but most people didn't like it, and Tom doesn't like it, and that's fine. But I still want to.
Tom doesn't like it. It's true. Tom spends a lot of his time trying very hard not to know things in this country right now.
I still want to land
forced to against my will. I will say that the one guy who emailed us was like, I hate it. I was like, that just makes me want to do it. So
there's that.
Don't tell me that you hate it, because that'll just
also a clear sign that Tom is an American, because the reaction to hey, I don't like this is, well, then I'm just going to do it more. So that's great.
That's Gen X. Don't blame America for that. That's just straight Gen X. That's my whole. John. Let's blame John Hughes for that one, because that feels like every movie that was made during my formative years was like, oh, you don't like this thing? Well, screw you, I'm gonna do it more. Right. I mean, so yeah.
But I want to land a little bit in the middle, which is to say that I don't want to be like vague the way we have been in the past and just say like, oh, whatever big thing is going on, but not actually say it. I do want to actually say it. So I just want to say, look, in Gaza City, in the conflict that's been going on between Israel and Palestine, like having the hostages released, that is a good thing. And hostages have been released now. Bodies of hostages who have already died, those have not been all returned as at the time that we're recording this. And then Reuters, which is, I don't know, maybe the only trustworthy news source for what's going on these days.
It doesn't feel like that. There's much we can trust anymore. That's a real shame.
But I mean, they're kind of the only major outlet that is reporting how, like, on not a day-to-day, on like an hour-by-hour basis. And they're like, this is a tenuous ceasefire. Like, there are skirmishes going on. Hamas is back on the streets in Gaza City, and they have killed people already. And it's like, well, declaring peace in the Middle East might have been a little bit premature, and it is all very tenuous. And I hope that the ceasefire holds, and I hope that this all goes very peacefully, and the return of the hostages is unequivocally a good thing. But that has all occurred in, honestly, not just the past week, but in the past few days as we're recording this now. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you watch, though? Because that's the question I asked you that we got there. So
so I didn't watch that much, despite having been sick. But I didn't take any time off work. I just sniffled and coughed and everything my way through there, and masked up so as to try and not to infect anybody else who was around me. I watched one movie over the past 2 weeks, which was Whiplash, which is going back a ways. I didn't write down what year that came out, but that's several years ago at this point. So starring J.K. Simmons and Miles Teller. And this is the story of, it is a fictional story. The writer-director said that he kind of loosely based it on some of his own experiences, but he never got to the level of the character that's in here. So he's a drummer coming to a prestigious music academy. Okay. The sort of like most renowned, and the reason why all the students want to go there is J.K. Simmons as the instructor. And this is like jazz music. That's that's all being done. So Miles Teller is the young drummer. J.K. Simmons is the instructor, and he is exceedingly regimented, militaristic, abusive. Flat out abusive, physically and verbally, and emotionally, and in all other ways. And so it's basically just watching the story of how Miles Teller's character just pushes himself, and puts up with all of the mistreatment of J.K. Simmons' character, and just all the ins and outs of the story of how that all proceeds. This had some, I can't remember if it won an Oscar or got nominations or what all. It certainly had all kinds of awards buzz when it happened. And yes, these are good actors. It is a compellingly portrayed story. Like, it's, you're interested, you're invested in what's going on, but I can't say I loved it. It's so over the top, which I'm not saying is unrealistic. We know there are instructors that are like this. It reminded me a lot of the professional chefs and stuff who completely are militaristic and mistreat all of the trainee chefs and everything that are coming in. So it was treated in that same way. Made no sense for it to be jazz, because I'm like, really? Regimented jazz sounds a little bit like oxymoron, but
it does. But that is. That's not, to me, that doesn't ring untrue. There's a lot of things that you're like, oh, this is more of an art and less of a thing that you learn how to do in a specific ways. But then you go into somebody's classroom, or you go into somebody's some experts, and they're like, this is literally the only way to do it, and you're doing it wrong.
Well, and this is an academy that competes with other academies, and so it's it is a competition, and it's judgment, and it's scored, and it's all those types of things. So that I didn't have any problem with that, but it was like, it was so over the top as to be nearly cartoonish. And then about the only thing they focused on, because I guess they were worried that a general audience wouldn't be able to understand the intricacies of drumming, and so the only thing that the movie focused on was sheer speed. It's like, if you can tap that drum faster than the person next to you, that makes you the better drummer. And that was like the only thing that they conveyed in this movie, which is absolutely not correct. And then also, like, J.K. Simmons, I'm not sure what level of musician he is in real life, but when they showed him playing the piano, and he was actually playing the piano, it wasn't kind of a digital replacement. They didn't do the thing where they just cut to his face and cut to someone else's hands. Right. Like, it was a wide enough shot, you could see that he was playing. It's like, well, he's a competent piano player, but he is clearly not at the level that this character is supposed to be at. Like, that was just blaringly obvious. Miles Teller, I'm not sure what level of drummer he is, but like, there were moments where the sound you were hearing did not match what you were seeing on screen, so that was clearly dubbed over. So it was kind of a little bit strange choices to do things like that. And then it was just so over the top, and such a cartoon type of villain that J.K. Simmons was portraying, and it was kind of hard to really get into it. And because they didn't allow the audience to like enjoy the true nuance of drumming, and just kind of this surface level thing where faster is better and that's the only thing we care about, it's like, it didn't all come together for me. So yeah, there you go. I can't say I was nearly as effusive about it as I saw a lot of the awards buzz for it. But yeah, it is compelling if you're watching. I mean, you're going to hate J.K. Simmons, which is the idea. You're supposed to. Right. And you're going to like feel for Miles Teller's character and kind of understand what he's doing, even as you're saying, like any reasonable person would just walk away at this point. But that's kind of the point of the movie, that anyone who wants to be great will not walk away, and they'll put up with any level of abuse and push through and do all those types of things. But yeah, it was all just a little bit ridiculous is the way I felt about it. So that was Whiplash, my review of it anyway.
All right. So I watched, I talked about it a while back. I finished it actually a while back, and I forgot to mention on the podcast, Secret Level on Amazon Prime, which is, it is a, anthology animated series based on a lot of video games and a couple of other very popular game type things like D&D and Warhammer 40K and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't know all the games. Let's just start with that. I don't think you need to quote unquote enjoy this little anthology series. It is, from what I can tell, from the games I know and the properties that I'm familiar with, it is just straight fan service. Like, I've always wanted to see this, and now I'm seeing it, and it's awesome. You know, which if you know the game, you're like, this is amazing. I love this.
Okay.
If you don't know the game, you're like, I feel like I should be impressed by what I'm seeing, and yet somehow I am not, because I don't know what's going on.
So it does rely on some prior knowledge then.
It does. There's a couple of games in particular I was like, I don't quite get why this in one case a robot, but this person is the main character. I don't understand what's really going on here. And I did mention before that they did Mega Man dirty, and they really did. They basically showed from, like, you know, Dr. Robotnik or whatever, they're talking about the fact that he's starting to corrupt robots and take over the world. And it's the point where, sorry, I hit the microphone. That's going to happen.
You did.
That's the point where Mega Man basically decides or gets empowered to go and fight. But then we never really see him go out there and fight. There's one little fight at the very beginning, and the dirty part is that the animation was really good, and I swear, if this thing is 5 minutes long, I don't think it's 5 minutes long. I mean, I think it felt like it was 35 seconds. It was so short. I'm like, what? Some of these other guys got like 15 minutes, and Mega Man gets like 5? That doesn't seem fair. So the Mega Man one was, and I feel like most of us should be at least tangentially knowledgeable about what Mega Man is. Started off with D&D, which was great. I guess my only if I have a knock against this, other than the fact that it's mostly just fan service and it's hard to really get into it if you don't know what's going on, is that there are some that you're like, this is clearly there were actors that were doing things and then they animated it over the top of them.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is, I guess, okay, but I'm just kind of like, you know, can we just see the actors instead? Can we not see the CGI version of the actor? Because I feel like the facial expressions would be a little bit more realistic if it was an actual face, you know, sort of Tron-esque.
I wonder if they did some motion capture or something.
Yeah. So I will say there was one, and I don't remember what game it was. It might have been like something like Counter-Strike or something like that, where I think definitely the theme, and it may have even been the name, was like, we're not the bad guys, or I'm not the bad guy, or something like that. It was two teams of mercenaries essentially trying to achieve opposing goals. And essentially, you know, the whole thing is them basically trying to kill each other, but at the same time, both of them feeling like they were on the side of right.
Okay.
And neither one of them feeling like they were evil in this thing. No, we're just doing a job. Oh no, we're just doing the job. And yeah, we're trying to stop this person from doing this bad thing that they're trying to do. And then the other side's like, we're just protecting this person's life. So we're clearly the good guys. And it's like, that was probably the only one that really had something to say. And I did really like what it had to say.
All right.
The fact that, no one is the villain in their own story, sort of thing. Like we tend to, or the world right now tends to vilify literally everybody else.
Well, we have this whole situation where if one side is identified as the bad guys, then the other side must be the good guys, but that's not always true.
Exactly.
There could be two bad sides.
You could both be good and trying to do opposing things, and you could both be bad. And you know what I mean? You could both be doing things for the wrong reasons. So the fact that they kind of addressed that, I felt like very. I wasn't familiar with the game, but I didn't have to be, because it was clearly just a first-person shooter with missions. I mean, there's like a million of these games out there, so it was very. I thought that one was the only one that really. I thought, oh wow, they did something here. That not like the other ones that were just mostly fan service. They really did something here. So it's worth a watch, especially if you know some of the games. You should definitely watch those episodes. I think it really felt like the Warhammer 40K. Which, by the way,
does it require you to watch all of them, or are they just completely separate?
They're completely separate.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all episodes.
So it doesn't matter if you only pick out your favorites then.
Yeah, you could pick out your favorites. And they're all well done for the most part. But it's just.
Do you remember how many total?
I think something like 15 or 17 or something like that. Yeah, there's quite a few. Okay. More than I thought. I thought there was going to be 11. And I was like watching them one night going, well, I'll just knock these all out right now. And it just kept going. And I'm like, what is happening? So definitely worth watching. Not perfect by any stretch, but it did make it. If you like specific games, you will walk away from that episode going, man, I wish they made a series on this, because it was certainly. There was certainly something like I wanted to see a Mega Man series for sure.
There have been Mega Man animated series in the past.
Yeah, but not like that. Right. I think it was it Pac-Man? There was one that was very bizarre and that I thought was very interesting. I'll have to go back and figure out what episode that was, but I think it was Pac-Man. It was, but let me go and look it up before I talk about it. But there's some very good ones in there. They're certainly worth watching. Some of them are just kind of like, I don't know. I think the Unreal Engine or Unreal Tournament or whatever one was like. I mean,
Unreal Engine is an engine. It's not a game.
Engine, yeah. But there was also an Unreal Tournament, games. Right? Wasn't that like the post-Doom era or whatever?
Going back to that.
Yeah.
That's way back.
Yeah. So that one I was like, okay. I mean, it just felt
That's
like
all right. They don't all have to hit.
Hunger Games is what it felt like. All right, let's get to the podcast. This is AVRant, a podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. Get your questions answered. All you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Go to our website, find our shows, our show notes, our links to the products and articles that we refer to during the podcast, as well as a Flickr album so you can follow along with our pictures. Yeah, so there will be some pictures in here, I imagine. I don't know. I haven't scrolled down to find out. You can find us on Facebook.com/AVRant Podcast, YouTube.com/AVRant. You can contact Rob directly, rob@avrant.com. His socials is @FirstReflect. I'm Tom at avrant.com. My socials is no. I don't do socials anymore. I literally only I found out that I am the target audience for literally everything on Facebook.
Ah, right.
So everything on Facebook is looking for middle-aged people, men, yes, but people who have disposable income, of which Facebook thinks I have some, and I see. I definitely do not.
They are mistaken.
Yes, they are mistaken in that case. But what I have discovered is that if I like things, it helps engagement like a lot more than if other people do. So all of my friends who have new businesses or are trying to advertise things, all I do is scroll Facebook and like their stuff. That's all I do. I do nothing. People are like, you never post on Facebook. I'm like, nope, you are correct. I do not. My wife has determined that we should never post pictures of our kids because, becomes public record and maybe our kids don't want that.
I'm not going to disagree with her.
They won't want it in the future. And I say that at the time I thought that was silly. And now in retrospect, I think she's very correct. And so I very rarely post anything about myself. So there you go.
I mean, hey, as soon as you post a picture of anyone, you can have Sora, AI create them committing crimes. Because that's exactly what AI should be used for. What else could we possibly have envisioned our generative AI image and video creators to do? It's like, yep, it's everybody you know is committing crimes.
I saw the first kind of couple of Sora 2 videos that hit the web. I was like, this looks very good. There's no way this is not AI. There's no way that this is real. And sure enough, it wasn't. It's a shame that we have to be at this. We are at this moment in time where we have not yet figured out as a society how to police, and I say that in the most, the least militant of terms, how to police this sort of thing, because misinformation. All right, you just want to.
There's a siren going by. You can hear that.
All right, bye. Thank you. The police are coming for me because I said the word.
Because you said Sora too.
I did say Sora too. So where we have not yet figured out how to police the internet and information and truth, because there was a long time where truth at least had the trappings of being something that you could go to certain places and find it. Even if it, in retrospect, we found out, journalists often did not or weren't allowed to publish certain stories because it was about the president, or that would be embarrassing for the nation, or this sort of thing. But still, all in all, journalistic integrity was a thing not that long ago. And now we're at the point where we don't trust journalists anymore. We don't trust news organizations anymore. We can't trust the internet. And now we can't even trust videos because of AI.
I mean, hey, the phrase "pics or it didn't happen" really doesn't mean much
doesn't
anymore.
Apply anymore, does it?
You can definitely show pics of anything you want. There is a picture. It wasn't hard to create.
All right, I want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, support the podcast in some way. One of the ways to do that is going to avrant.com, click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and send us a PayPal donation. And this week, we want to thank Tim, I think.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Tim because I don't know anyone that goes by Timothy, like in real life.
Surely someone does. At the
Someone
same time,
probably does.
I'm pretty sure if he goes by Timothy, at some point he has been referred to as Tim in his life. It would seem unlikely that that's never happened, so...
Yeah, so
no offense meant either way.
No offense meant either way. I don't know. So Tim went to avrant.com, clicked on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link, and he sent us a PayPal donation. So thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you, Tim, for that PayPal donation.
So if you want to support us monthly, go to patreon.com/AVRant podcast, where you can sign up to be a monthly contributor. We are currently at 127 patrons right now. With John, who doubled his donation and says, hang in there. Ahmad and James is a member of the 2 Hour Plus Club, are all patrons. So we want to thank each and every one of our patrons.
That is right. That is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So a big thanks to our 127 patrons over there. John, Ahmed, and James, thank you all for being 3 of them.
Yeah. If you can't support us financially, support us in some other way, and we will mention you here. Dan offered to make me some AVRant drink coasters, but like the ones he made for Rob, so he's going to call it the housewarming gift. And Dan, thank you very much. I would appreciate that. It's actually coming at a very apropos time because the running joke in my family is that my wife refuses to use coasters, which is okay because the table we have was a hand-me-down. We don't really like it. We're going to end up giving it away anyways, but still, we were at a friend's house for dinner Sunday, and he put a coaster down, and she put her glass of wine or whatever off to the side, and then he moved the coaster, and then she moved the glass to the other side. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Put your glass on top of the coaster. What is wrong with you, lady?" And she just wasn't paying attention.
That's like the radio or the recording studios where they put the little piece of carpet down so that if you need to put down your drink cup or your phone or anything, you can put it on the carpet and it won't ding on the desk. And like everybody always either moves the piece of carpet out of the way or puts their phone next to the carpet, goes clunk on the desk and makes the sound.
So yeah, I actually have a folded up dish towel over here, just holding my drinks. So yes, that would be very. And then Dan, I'll reach out to you. I'm sorry that I haven't yet. It is
okay.
As you can imagine, we are a little crazy over here still.
Right.
We're getting there though. You know, people talk about light at the end of the tunnel, that sort of thing. You can we can almost feel a weekend.
Right.
Where we don't have to do anything.
You can actually relax for once.
So, in Florida, one thing that's almost ubiquitous is cutting the grass. Like, it never stops growing here because we don't really have winter. But it does slow down quite a bit during the quote-unquote colder months. Mm-hmm. So we are almost to the colder months where we won't have to cut the grass both here, which we don't have much grass here, but a whole bunch of grass at our other house.
Right.
And when that happens, oh my. What will we do with all of our free time?
I'm sure we'll
have the house
something.
put together. We'll want to cut the grass. It'll be like I'll feel guilty for just lying in bed, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
so thank you, Dan.
Thank you for that offer. I'm sure Tom will take you up on it.
We also got I also got some Movies Anywhere codes sent to me from Greg and Kurt for me to test out to make sure that they work. Greg, your code does in fact work. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that it will still work for you as well because I already had access to that movie.
Gotcha.
And Kurt, thank you very much because my wife really wanted to see this new Superman movie. So now I'll still be able to. So thank you very much, Greg and Kurt.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Kurt.
We also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Raph, from Daniel. So he said, did I continue watching The Sandman on Netflix? He thought season 2 was wonderful and that I would continue to dig the whole vibe of that show. Yeah. So Neil Gaiman turned out to be a huge POS. So I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm just like, okay. So I have, I'm of the opinion that early views of a show or series are very, very important to the continuation of that show or series. So if a show or series comes out and you watch it right away, that tells the streaming service or network or whatever that you definitely want to see more of it, and you want to continue to give that person money so that they can make some more of that stuff. So I have been waiting. I do want to see it. I do. Okay. Sandman was I early collector of this comic book from the very first book to, I don't remember how far I went before I stopped collecting that. But issue is the word I was looking for that I couldn't find. So I do want to watch it. I'm just sort of like trying to make sure there's enough distance between it being released and me watching it so that I'm not feeling like I'm supporting him. And I know that's, that's the same way I do with like Roman Polanski and other problematic people in the art world.
So Daniel, long way of saying no, not yet.
Not yet. Gurinder, Nathan, Karl, John, Greg, who's most recent to our Plus Club Secret Word member.
Yep.
Dan, Tim. Tim says Michael Keaton was the best Batman. Also, could Tom share some pictures of the closet organizers he ends up with? Tim hates his own closet, so he'd really like to see what a proper solution looks like. Nate, who has been watching on YouTube and enjoys our no BS approach. Jack, who's got almost all the proper words.
Almost all.
You're missing one.
The secret words for the 2 hour
to
plus
be
club.
The 2 hour plus club member. But he's definitely plus. Member Ahmad, who says congrats on the new house to me, and James is happy that I finally found a new house. So thank you to all of you. I'll go from the beginning again. Okay. Raph, Daniel, Gurinder, Nathan, Karl, John, Greg, Dan, Tim, Nate, Jack, Ahmed, and James. Thank you for thanking us.
Yeah, that's 2 weeks worth. That's why the list is extra long. And I'll say the names one more time. We got Raph, Daniel, Gurinder, Nathan, Karl, John, Greg, Dan, Tim, Nate, Jack, Ahmed, and James. Thank you all so much for your notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
All right, in the news, there should be a little bit from the last 2 weeks. Dirac Live Active Room Treatment, or ART, Dirac ART, is now available for compatible Denon Marantz receivers and pre-pros. It's a model with four subwoofer pre-outs, then it can support Dirac Live ART. ART uses all the speakers and subwoofers in your audio system to coordinate and work together to reduce decay times and eliminate room modes. The multi-input, multi-output system is now patented and built on top of Dirac Live Room Correction and Dirac Live Bass Control to treat each speaker channel as the sum of the output of all the speakers and subwoofers in the system playing together rather than individual separate speakers. Oh, God help me. It's going to cost a whole bunch of money, isn't it? The price for Dirac Live ART is $299, but it requires that you already have Dirac Live Room Correction and Dirac Live Bass Control. So you cannot just pay $299 to get ART all by itself. So let's go through the complete Dirac Live pricing structure for Denon Marantz. $259 can add Dirac Live Room Correction with limited bandwidth up to 500 Hz max, and an extra $99 after that can upgrade to limited bandwidth version to full bandwidth version to 358 for a 358 total. So you can buy 358 to get the
start with limited bandwidth and then upgrade it to full bandwidth later.
Yes, that's the Dirac Live Room Correction. If you buy the full bandwidth right from the start, it's $349, so it's a $9 savings.
Correct.
Whatever. And on top of that, you have to add the bass control, Dirac Live Bass Control, for another $299. And then if you have both of those, you can add ART for another $299, as mentioned. So if you did everything piecemeal in as many steps as possible, you'd wind up paying $956 for it all, or you could save $9. But there are bundles if you want to save some money. Okay? If you're starting from scratch, you can get room correction full bandwidth plus bass control together for $599, which is almost $50 savings, or $49 savings. If you already have room correction, you want to add both bass control and ART. That bundle costs $549 again, so it's another $49 savings, whatever. And the best deal is if you're starting from scratch. So let's punish the people who've already given you money.
In a little way, yes. Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? And you're buying the full Dirac Live suite all at once. The bundle of Dirac Live Room full bandwidth, bass control, and art all in one is $7.99, saving you anywhere from $99 to $157, depending on how you might have done the piecemeal upgrades. Art is now available on the Denon X3800H, 4800H, 6800H, A10H, A1H receiver models. Somebody is in my life is going to upgrade to this, I'm sure. And for the Marantz Cinema 50, Cinema 40, and Cinema 30 receivers, as well as the AV20 and AV10 Pre-Pros. So $1,000-ish, anywhere from $800 to $1,000.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's literally
US dollars, by the way.
Receiver.
US dollars.
That's the entire receiver. Some of these things are doubling the price of the receiver.
I mean,
that
not if you have one of the flagships. It is definitely
of course.
a percentage of one of the price of one of the flagships. But yeah, can't exactly call it cheap. But you know, some people were expecting that Dirac Live ART all on its own was going to cost in the vicinity of $500. You know, that was sort of one of the sort of expected prices. So $300, that's better than that. It's not over $1,000 for the full suite. In fact, it's $800 if you buy it all in one go. But yeah, if you had already previously upgraded your Denon Marantz AV receiver or Pre-Pro to some portion of the Dirac Live suite that existed before, unfortunately adding art to it doesn't give you like bonus savings for having already been a previous customer. It's actually better to have waited the entire time in terms of just total price spent.
That's crazy. That is nuts. Okay. In more Denon Marantz news, Harman, a Samsung company. Harman, a Samsung company?
I mean, that's the full title now. Yeah. Harman is wholly owned by Samsung. So the full title of the company is Harman, a Samsung company.
Has now completed its acquisition of Sound United from Massimo, and announced its plans on how it will run the brands as a standalone strategic business unit within Harman. First up, they said that for the foreseeable future, say 6 months to a year, there's going to be very little change. They're going to be doing layoffs. That's what's happening. They're going to send people in there to optimize their workflow, which is code for get your LinkedIn ready because you're going to be looking for a job. So they don't foresee 1, 2, or 3 years down the road a mass consolidation. They don't foresee that. So yeah, many of us were predicting that. Hey, why would you have Denon and Marantz and Arcam and JBL receivers? And I think they own a couple other receiver brands at this point too. It's like, why would you have all of them? We were expecting that they'd consolidate them, but they said they do not foresee doing that, at least for the next 2-3 years. Yeah. Let's all put that in the bank.
Yeah. They
will look to continue a diversified distribution strategy. Customer service, supply chain, and sales teams are going to remain separate, truly run as an independent business under the Harman Lifestyle Division umbrella. Why do they even say this? Why do they say this? Because they want to reassure customers that no changes are coming. And then they're going behind the scenes. It's going to be chaos and slashing, and they will consolidate everything probably in 6 months.
Well, I mean, Samsung hasn't totally gutted Harman. They've left Harman to operate on their own, and then Harman, as a subdivision of Samsung, has done this Sound United acquisition from Massimo for, I gotta say, a great deal, because Massimo was just looking to offload what they had retitled Massimo Consumer. So Harman got it for a song. So it's financially, it's a pretty good deal they scored.
Wait for Harman to start telling people that the watts out of the Denon and Marantz receivers are real. As opposed to the fake ones that everybody else says. Harman Kardon used to do that. The goal, says Harman, is to use scale where it helps, but without flattening brand identities. While there is some overlap in pricing with existing Harman brands, they see enough differentiation and marketplace competition that they do not plan to close down any of the Sound United brands, and instead they want their various engineering teams around the world to learn from each other and share knowledge. So everything's going to be on the same Denon platform. They're just going to slap different nameplates and faceplates and colors. Oh, maybe the Harman stuff will all be silver. That'd be nice.
Used to be the two-tone.
Helios is intended to be the main consumer-level multi-room solution, while Roon will target the high-end. Denon Marantz will continue their lanes alongside JBL Modern Audio and Arkham. Polk will become a lifestyle brand with definitive technology aimed squarely at home theater, and Bowers & Wilkins taking on more of a luxury status in the speaker realm. So all things considered, for a consolidation of this size, it sounds as though the plan, at least initially, is as non-disruptive as we could reasonably hope for it to be. They are going to, Marantz or Denon have got to go away, or they've got to differentiate. Either Denon's going to become the entry level, or Marantz is going, and Marantz will become the high end. Yeah. And we won't see any more high end stuff, or they're just going to get rid of one of them, and then one of these other, because they've already got Arkham, and I don't even know what JBL Modern Audio is.
That was the they were aiming to simplify the rear panel of the AV receivers in the JBL Modern Audio line, so that they were just more aesthetically pleasing and easier to hook up, less intimidating on the back panel. That was the whole aim of those.
Yeah, I don't see all of that being, living alongside each other.
I 3 years from now, I will be surprised if literally all of the sub-brands still exist. But that all said, compared to the alternative of Massimo just sells all of Massimo Consumer / Sound United to private equity, or, a hedge fund, or chopped up every single brand and sold it off, purely as a brand name license plate to whatever companies all over the world. All of those are worse than this, I would say. That's my take on it, is that as far as a giant acquisition and merging of this nature goes, I think this is about as good as we could have hoped for. At the very least, if you are a loyal Denon receiver fan and customer, it's not just gone, it's not just a nameplate now that is slapped on there with none of the Denon engineering behind it. It's no, there's gonna be some continuation, at least for the next couple of years. I do believe them on that front.
Yeah. So I guess my only question for Harman is, how super bitter are they about Harman Kardon going away? Having basically getting defeated by Denon and Marantz, and Onkyo and Yamaha and everybody else for that matter, because they never, they were a pretty huge brand with a pretty loyal following, but they were never. Huge is the wrong word. They were niche, and that following was very loyal. How is there somebody within that organization that remembers those days and is like, man, we should bring back Harman Kardon. We should take one of these companies and turn it into Harman Kardon.
They could have, instead of JBL Modern Audio, they could have used the Harman Kardon brand to do that. So
they could have, but maybe they they don't want it to be the simplified, easy one. They still want it to have that cachet of being a little bit more high end with real watts versus everything else. There is too much overlap here. There just is. But the question you have to ask yourself is the brand being the brand name enough to keep it from being subsumed or eliminated by them, subsumed into another one of the brands, or do they have a loyal enough following? So I think Denon definitely should stay around.
They're keeping Denon around. I don't have any doubt of that.
Marantz is a little bit more I could see how they could differentiate these things, but it would really take them, they would really have to look at the other brands, because for me, Denon stays in, and even can stay in the top, the entry level all the way up to the top end, but it's in Best Buy and the normal stores, and then Marantz goes into custom installers, sort of like Integra does for Onkyo, but then now you've got Arkham. What are you gonna do with Arkham? Arkham is what, they're also there, so you're competing with yourself. It becomes a little bit tricky. Yeah, they really have to differentiate their brands to keep everything around.
No,
Something's got to go.
The most explicit change that they outright mentioned was Polk going to a lifestyle speaker brand, which, I mean, I don't say doesn't make sense. You know, it does make a certain amount of sense, but there are certainly like Polk fans of their flagship speakers who are going to be disappointed to see that company become a lifestyle speaker brand company. But
portable speaker brand. Nothing but Bluetooth. Microsoft decided the price increase to their Xbox consoles wasn't enough on their own, so they overhauled their Xbox Game Pass subscription service and drastically increased the price of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Get ready for the return of Xbox 360, which is $360 a year, that is. So let's start at the bottom.
Xbox $360 a year. That's the new name.
Are they... I heard that like some companies aren't... Was that wrong, that they're not going to sell the Xbox console anymore? Anyways, we'll get to this, I'm sure. The Xbox Game Pass Core has now been renamed Xbox Game Pass Essential. It means you have to have it. It's still $10 a month and grants you access to online console multiplayer, so you can get screamed racial slurs by people you've never met who are far too young to be using those words. But it now works across Xbox consoles, PC, and cloud gaming. Oh, good. Not just consoles alone the way Core used to, and now includes access to a library of over 50 games.
Yep.
Wow.
It
whole
rotates
50.
as well.
Xbox Game Pass Standard is now Game Pass Premium. It also gains support on PC and cloud gaming. In addition to Xbox consoles, it comes with a library of over 200 games. And while you do not get day one access to brand new first-party titles, those games will be added to the premium tier within 1 year. The price for premium is $15 a month. And then there's the Ultimate. It always included access across Xbox consoles, PC, and cloud gaming, but now cloud gaming is officially out of beta and supports up to 1440p streaming. EA Play... Didn't EA just get sold? Anyways.
Yep.
EA Play is now still included, but now they've also added Ubisoft Plus... I hate Ubisoft. And Fortnite Crew, which I didn't know was a thing, so you won't need a separate subscription for those. I didn't know that was even a thing. There are over 400 games in the Ultimate Library, and the big selling factor is getting day one access to first-party games. Microsoft says they'll include at least 75 day one games every year. But the price, the price. It jumps up $20 a month to a whopping $30 a month.
No, just from $20 a month to $30 a month.
Oh, from 20, okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. It went up 50%.
Yep.
There are no annual plans or multi-month discounts. It's just flat out $360 a year if you want to keep Xbox Game Pass Ultimate full-time. PC Game Pass also gets a sizable price increase from $12 a month to $16.50 a month for those who want access to Xbox first-party games on day one of their gaming PCs only. So...
How can this be successful? I mean, like, there are the diehards who are going to pay it, and it's still going to be a fairly good deal for them, and that's fine. But like, as people have been pointing out, if you were subscribed to Ultimate before, so you were paying $240 a year before, but now they want $360 a year from you, and it's like, how many full-size day one games do you play in a year? Because divide that number, divide 360 by the number of games you genuinely play every year, and it's like, there are a lot of people who truthfully 3, 4, maybe 5 games is what they honestly play in a year. And very often it's the annualized games. Those are 2 or 3 of those that they count on, and then there's 2 or 3 other games that they might pick up. It's like, you start dividing the price of just buying the game versus what it costs to subscribe to Ultimate. And
don't worry, they got you, Rob. They're going to start increasing the price of the games next. So they
already have. games are already $80. $80 is what they're called. Yeah. But it's just people just hardcore gamers are doing the sheer math on it, and they're like, Ultimate is just not the fantastic deal that it so obviously was when it launched. I mean, are they trying to funnel more and more people to premium? How does that work for them? Like, the compelling thing is the day one releases, right? You pay a subscription fee and you get all the day one releases. You don't have to buy them piecemeal. Like, that's the attractive thing, but Essential and Premium do not have that day one game access. So it's like, it doesn't even seem like they're really trying to funnel people to Premium and then get you to buy some day one games on top of it. Like, I don't really understand the pure nuts and bolts, the arithmetic justification for this. I just don't quite understand. I don't know how it's going to be successul.
I don't.
A little bewildering to me.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Yeah.
There you go. It screams of giving up to a certain extent, where it's like, listen, if we're gonna make this successful, this is how much money we have to make. So let's charge it,
right?
Or if we're gonna make money on this, let's just charge it and see if it goes. It doesn't go.
Well, kind of same with the consoles, right? It's just kind of like, here is how much we have to charge to not lose money on these anymore, and we'll just set the price there and see what happens, I guess.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It is.
Apple is rebranding their streaming service, so they're going to get that Plus out of there. So it's now, and instead of Apple TV Plus, it's just going to be called Apple TV, which you may recognize as being the exact same name as their hardware and their app. So when we're talking about Apple TV, what are we talking about? You guess. You'll have to get it from context clues, because it's certainly not going to be there in the name.
This one is weird. I mean, people got used. We all kind of laughed and made fun of every single streaming service being called whatever plus, but at the same time, we kind of got used to it, and it was like, it was a clear like indication, right? You got a plus symbol on the end of it. Oh, that's a streaming service, and we kind of all understood that and got used to it, and nobody was really making fun of it anymore. So like Apple TV Plus made perfect, reasonable sense. Like, okay, Apple has all these other things that have TV in the name, but Apple TV Plus is the streaming service. I don't know why this required a rebrand, and why you would also just call all three things Apple TV at this point. This is another bizarre one that I don't understand.
All right. Well, we'll see how that goes. I don't really care anymore. In the comments here from our listeners, Raf in Australia says, success. He says, success! Exclamation point. Right after we talked about how making absorption panels that are 8 inches thick in total, which is 6 inches of insulation plus a 2-inch air gap, he was perusing Facebook Marketplace. They came across a company in Melbourne called Verbox that was selling off a package of 8 fiberglass panels already wrapped in acoustically transparent black fabric. They are close to 2 feet wide and 4 feet tall, and best of all, they're 8 inches thick. The entire bundle of 8 such panels cost around $1,000 Australian, but given the price for the regular bats of insulation, fiberglass insulation in Australia, plus saving him the time and hassle of making the panels himself and wrapping them in fabric, it worked out to be a good deal for him, so he snapped it up. His front wall in his theater is roughly 10 feet wide and a little under 9 feet tall. With just a bit of spacing, the 8 panels nearly cover the entire wall, floor to ceiling. They fit nicely behind his 98-inch TV and dual tone winner D8000 subs. So now he's got this big old black wall in the front.
I mean, it already was a black wall, but
now it's black and full of insulation.
He didn't even have to take anything down. He was able to put these on top of what was already there, so a reasonably fast and easy installation, and it's added a whole bunch more absorption to his room.
So best of all, he can really hear the difference. The bass in his room sounds tighter and better balanced. He's thinking he might look in to getting some additional 4-inch thick panels from Verbox to give them a bit more absorption on the side walls. But for now, our advice has led to a noticeable improvement. That sounds great. So he says, thank you. You're welcome.
You are welcome. I'm very happy that you were able to spot that deal and that the results have been audible and beneficial, which is exactly what we hope for, of course. So yeah, good job. Well done.
Infinite Gary heard how Jack wanted the 50-inch or smaller TV, but he was concerned about potential burn-in since he sometimes leaves the TV in his office powered on and his TiVo signal doesn't automatically start his TV screensaver. Gary initially wanted an under 50-inch LCD TV as well, but given the options and the picture quality available, he ended up getting a 48-inch OLED, just like we suggested to Jack with the LG B5. The good news for Jack is that the LG OLEDs let you set a timer. Yes, Jack would need to remember to set it, but if you're worried about burn-in and you don't trust the automatic screensaver, you can manually set a timer and the OLED will put itself into standby. Also, Gary has been using several OLEDs for quite a few years now, and burn-in honestly just has not been any sort of problem. The concerns seem a bit overblown to him. Gary also likes to turn down the brightness on everything. So
yes, Gary does watch very dim, but by the same token, Artings has been doing their long-term burn-in test, and there was like a clear delineation right around 2001 when the C1 models came out from LG, and there was actually a chemical switch in their OLED compounds. They were previously using primarily hydrogen, and then they switched to heavy hydrogen deuterium, and that seems to have made a real noticeable, verifiable difference. So yeah, according to Arting's long-term tests, where they are not running them dim, they are running them very, very overly bright, but constantly. They are allowing them to do the compensation cycles, but yeah, there's this very clear line in the timeline where that switch over in the chemical composition, they're like, yeah, the OLEDs, if you treat them somewhat reasonably, just so not outright abuse, then honestly, it's just the burn-in is not that much of a concern anymore.
Gary also wanted to comment that the highest quality cassette tapes can actually sound very, very good, since we remarked last week that we thought the idea of a cassette resurgence, 2 weeks ago, was a bit ridiculous. The cheapest Type 1 cassettes were indeed lo-fi, but Type 4 metal cassettes were outright high fidelity, in his opinion. He did his own experiment, recording a CD onto a Type 4 metal cassette using his Nakamichi RX 505 tape deck, and then comparing the CD sound to the cassette recordings. He did think the cassette lost a little bit of detail in the high frequencies, but it was oh so slight. And he doubts anyone just listening casually would ever be able to notice the difference. So cassettes do not inherently sound bad at all until you play them a bunch of times, and then they do.
There's that. So. And, I mean, even by Gary's own admission, instantly lossy. Something was lost, even just according to his ears purely. So we don't have to use cassettes. We have other very portable means of, conveying and copying and distributing
like the CD
music
that you were just holding in your hand that you put onto a cassette. It's almost like it was right there. It was so close. my wife's my wife drives a CRV, like a 2013 or 2015. I don't remember, CRV, and we were in there. I was like, "What does this button do on your thing?" And I pressed it, and the screen came up, and there's a CD slot. I was like, "Hey, look, there's a CD player in here."
There you go.
We had no idea. We don't own any CDs, but we used to.
No, I'm sorry, Gary. I'm never going to be an audio cassette fan. It's just never going to win me.
Don't get me wrong. I love cassettes. So, cassettes were a big part of my childhood, and I have a lot of very fond memories of cassettes and pirating things on cassettes. Sure. Because that's how when you're young and poor and your friend gets an album, that's how it's what was available. I don't have any beefs with it from the historical or the sentimental standpoint. I'm just saying that there is nothing a cassette can do today that you cannot do in a better way that is every bit as convenient as an audio cassette, or more convenient. There is, to me, no advantage today to an audio cassette. All right, let's get into this, since we're talking to Gary anyways. Let's get into the questions here. Infinite Gary, again. The image used at the top of a recent Sound and Vision article got Gary thinking back to the old tube TV CRT days, and how for a while the trend was to build a TV into an even larger, fancier pieces of furniture, some of which allowed for large speakers to be incorporated all into one big wooden piece along with the TV. Mm-hmm. They also did this with radios back in the day too, Gary. That's right. It's not and record players, all sorts of other stuff. So
sewing machines.
Yeah, right. I have literally touched everything that we have talked about. My family has either owned at one point, or I have touched, like the sewing machine that collapses down into the table thing. My aunt had one of those. So it got him thinking. He doesn't foresee any consumer market for flat panels that are permanently built into large wooden pieces of furniture. I do, but let's keep going. But it does seem pretty common to see large credenzas below flat panel TVs in a lot of homes. A lot of the credenzas you can buy include spaces that are clearly meant to house speakers, but they leave it up to you to provide the speakers of your choice. What if it was all purpose-built for sound from the get-go, like taking a SoundBar to the extreme? A credenza with left, center, right speakers already built into it could utilize all of the cabinet space with known and fixed dimensions to deliver genuinely impressive sound quality, couldn't it? Theoretically, yeah. Sure. And if it were sold as an actual nice piece of furniture rather than an add-on exclusively for audio, perhaps the higher price point wouldn't seem so objectionable. or out of place as a $5,000 soundbar, and it could sound better too. He doubts it would happen, but he likes his own idea. What do we think? So I have seen stuff like this, and a lot of times it's shown as I'm talking about the TV being incorporated into the piece of furniture. A lot of times it's shown as being a footer at the end of your bed.
Ah, yes, right.
So the TV pops up out of some piece of furniture that's rising, down there. Yeah. And therefore, you don't have a TV on your wall. You don't have to deal with all that nonsense. The TV just kind of pops out of there. We've also seen like the roll-up screens for like the OLED, the roll-up OLED things. Those are often housed in a piece of furniture or something like that. That's how it's kind of couched. Whether or not speakers are incorporated is, not really the point of those things.
In the LG ROLED, the OLED R, they did have the speakers built into the casing where the OLED would roll itself down.
So the problem is that with the amount of options that people have for furniture and the access we have to different styles of furniture that are out there, it doesn't make sense to me to see any company try to make furniture and TVs as one thing. Because if you think back to our parents' days or grandparents' days, what did you have access to that told you, that kind of informed you as to what was available in furniture? Ethan Allen, maybe your local stores or something like that, local furniture stores, maybe a Sears catalog, and perhaps what was on TV. And I think most importantly, like as a global or maybe countrywide thing, it was what was on TV. You saw, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and they had some piece of furniture in there. You're like, oh, I would love to have that for my house, and that's it. But now we have access to the internet with, the myriad of styles out there. I mean, I drive around my town and I see houses that are like in crazy styles that I would never. You couldn't. I'd like to say you couldn't give me that house, but maybe you could have a couple of months ago, to be honest with you. But it would definitely not be something I would be seeking out. And I go in people's houses and I see their furniture. And I'm like, man, this is all nice stuff. I don't like it. It's not my style, but it's all nice stuff. And the idea that you're going to limit the market for your TV to people who like that style of furniture is insane. And vice versa. For people who like that kind of style of furniture, you're now limiting them to only people who want a TV inside of it.
But Gary's not saying the TV built in this case. He's like, it's going to be a credenza. And I mean, look, there are credenzas that are like an established style. So then just actually, like, instead of just having spaces in that credenza where the speakers are clearly meant to go, you engineer it so that you're making use of that full volume of the credenza as a speaker cabinet and building the speakers right in. Yeah, I mean, like, I totally see the logical thinking. Like, I can totally follow along and go, yep, I can nod my head and go, yep, that kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense. But like, we've seen how, first of all, I think it would have to be at a very high price point, like well above $5,000. Yes. And then we've seen how, like, Andrew Jones developed the speakers, like $80,000 speakers, which would be a lot more today. But, that were like the fully custom wood cabinets with the amplification all built in. And he's like, the only reaction he ever got from the crowd that was, possibly able to afford those speakers was like, these are the best speakers we've ever heard. We love all the engineering behind this, but why can't I use my own amplifiers? And he's like, you just told me they're the best speakers you ever heard, and part of that is that we engineered the amplifiers to go right along with the speakers and the cabinet. It's all one unit. It works together. Like, but I know my amplifiers would sound better. And so I'm like, that's the problem you run into, is you make a really nice piece of furniture. It has to be necessarily at a very high price point. And then somebody's going to say, but why can't I put my speakers in it? Because my speakers, even though they aren't better than the speakers that are built in or that was purposely engineered to work exactly with this cabinet volume, I just know they're better.
Mine would
I just know they're
better.
Yeah.
And that happens so often where people are absolutely convinced that what they think is the best, no matter what evidence they have to the contrary.
That's right.
It's shocking to me, the number of people who are like I mean, so you guys know that I do I work with the improv theater here in town and do improv and that sort of stuff. And I've touched on this. I think I talked about it a little bit, but they have a projector. It's ridiculously oversized for the throw distance is like 6 feet. I mean, if that, it's not even that probably. It's so short, but this projector is like massive. It's clearly meant for a very, very large space, a very, very large throw distance. And that projector broke. And then I was like, man, I've got it like the small LED projector at home. It's crazy bright. It's very nice, for what it is. And it's perfect for this space because the theater's small, goes up in the rafters. It's got a bunch of, it's meant to be off axis. It's got all these things that help that. And they're like, and the person who does the AV there is like, no, this is the perfect projector for this theater. I'm like, no. I mean,
it's what they know.
It's just not. But it is now because it's the only one they'll ever have. So it is what it is. But and people are so convinced that they are right that the only thing they're looking for, and this happens on this podcast too, is confirmation. They just want to be told that they are in fact correct, and which is why we don't have a bigger following than we do.
But yeah, I mean, as far as what Gary suggested, like I actually do think it's a pretty good idea, but I think it ends up it so quickly ends up being, it's just got to be fully custom, and like you can already do that fully custom. So I think that's where it ends up being. Yeah,
I think you end up having to, if it's going to be fully custom, if it's going to cost that much, you have to you can't mass market it or mass produce it. It has to be like, okay, well, what style of furniture do you want? Let's find something that's similar to that.
And then let's get exactly
what speakers do you want in there?
Yeah,
right. What amplifiers do you want? This sort of thing. And that's the only way you can really do it. David, who's stationed in Japan. Hello, David from Japan. David is still trying to optimize his new home theater setup in the small but enclosed and dedicated room in his American-style house in Japan. That just brain twister, that is. As we might recall, after replacing his large RBH front speakers with 3 KEF LS50 speakers, he was initially getting massive distortion anytime he played anything over about 80 dB. Since we said there was no way that should be happening, he found that when he simply turned Audyssey off in his Denon receiver, the distortion went away. So we figured it was simply a problem with his first run of Audyssey after getting his new speakers. We even thought the Audyssey microphone itself might potentially have a problem. So first things first, since his 2-inch thick absorption panels were all in need of refurbishment, thanks to his cat having used them as climbing walls, I wouldn't mind having a cat, but every story about a cat makes me not want to have a cat. Everything. Like we had so many people give us bar stools when we lost our everything in the flood, and every single one of them were clawed to hell from
there you go.
Cats. And they're like, well, we replaced them anyways. I'm like, yeah, I can see why. Some of them were so consistently clawed that it looked purposeful.
Yep.
Like it looked like it was a design choice. Anyways, he took all those panels apart and replaced the 1x2 frames with 1x4 frames plus new fabrics. So his absorption panels are all a bit thicker now and have an air gap behind the insulation material. With those mounted on his walls, he reran the Audyssey, this time using the Audyssey Editor app. He also had a second Audyssey microphone in hand, so he ran it again. The results for both mics were virtually identical, and they were still showing a huge dip in his front left and right speakers right around 100 hertz that even Audyssey's optimistic after projections couldn't totally fix. And not only can the distortion in the bass be easily heard, he can also see the drivers in his KEF speakers working themselves like crazy if he leaves Audyssey on. So he assumed it had to be an interaction between the speaker's positioning and the room and seating position, so he tried repositioning the speakers to test it out. He really cannot move the seats since they're already only 3 feet from the front edge of the couch to the front edge of the TV stand. Wow, he was close.
Yep.
And moving the seats any further back would block the closet doors. This is a small room.
It's a small room. That's right.
The closet door is the room. Is the doors he used to get out of the closet.
Pretty close.
With the speakers repositioned to be closer to the wall behind them, according to Audyssey's before measurements, the dips around 100 hertz weren't quite as bad. Audyssey's after projections now show smooth, flat lines, but unfortunately, during actual playback, there's still audible distortion with Audyssey turned on. So he tried setting Audyssey to left-right bypass rather than the reference target, and that got rid of the distortion. He's really rather enjoyed the sound with Audyssey set this way, but of course that means his front, left, and right speakers are not being EQ'd at all, and his other speakers and subwoofer are being EQ'd, but not the front, left, and right. So I have to scroll past a whole bunch of measurements here.
So what we're showing here, if I go back to the first one of these images, so yeah, initially we're going through front left, front right, center, surround left, surround right, and the subwoofer, and these are just in pairs. So first of all was prior to like the way he initially positioned them, and then the second one is after he had physically moved the front left and right speakers closer to the front wall, so like push them back so that they're close to the wall. So we can see even the before measurements in the front left and right speakers, they did improved. In fact, I mean, in that front right speaker, there's quite a drastic difference in what it measured right around 100 hertz after he moved it. So it does all seem to be sort of boundary interference that's being picked up there. If we're looking at the center speaker before and after, like a very minor change, but he also didn't reposition that one. These were both done with, two different Audyssey microphones as well. Not every graph that we're showing here, but it's just that they confirmed on top of each other. And then the surrounds, they didn't change at all, which is actually kind of a good indication that, the consistency across Audyssey measurements is not wildly different whatsoever. In the subwoofer, there does look to be a minor little difference, but the overall shape there is very, very similar. So, yeah, I mean, the one question I have is, how was the microphone actually positioned for all of the measurements that were taken? Because, look, you're in a room where necessarily the microphone cannot be particularly far away from any boundaries, including the seats. And just some of the language he used, it made me think, like the language he used in his email, it made me think that he really was following, what the instructions more or less say to do, which is to put the microphone in your seats. And I was like, I don't know if I'm not saying he put it literally on the seat cushion. He almost certainly had the microphone tip, up where his head would be. But did you have it really close to the backrest or sitting on the backrest? Because look, lots of people do that. I'm not going to blame anybody for doing it because the instructions are not really clear enough to make sure that you don't do that. But this could be a case where some of this is still measurement anomaly. And what's actually causing most of the issue now is the microphone placement, because we really do want like a 1 foot radius around the microphone of free air. Like that includes the seat back. And I know that seems weird because you're thinking, hey, aren't I trying to EQ for the seat back? But you're not. All you're really trying to do with Audyssey is to EQ for the actual sound that's being emanated from the speaker and what's being reflected off the walls. We're not trying to EQ for the furniture, like the seat back, and we're not trying to EQ for you. Like at least they make it pretty clear, hey, don't actually sit in the seat with the microphone, on top of your head and take the microphone measurements that way. Because I mean, early on in Audyssey, there were some people who kind of even espoused doing that. They're like, hey, shouldn't you be EQing for the audience members as well? Like, shouldn't you have like people like? I remember there being forum posts where people were like, yeah, I put a dummy in my left seat and a dummy in my right seat so that Audyssey could EQ for when I have an actual audience of people in here. It's like, no, we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to get the speaker response and the reflected response all under control with the EQ, but we're not trying to equalize for like small, acoustically speaking, small interferences like a human body or in fact the seat back. So that's my number one thing right now. You've clearly shown that you're willing to do these measurements multiple times. I would just want to make sure that the microphone is not like, more than a foot or closer than a foot to the seat back itself.
So there's no article I wrote on Navy Gadgets that's all about the proper microphone positions. I'll link that up. That'll help you with that. The other thing you can do, at least to try, is to change your crossover on your front speakers.
Yeah.
To be higher than the
that's actually just below those graphs there. I've written up a little bit more to this first part of his question here. Yeah.
So is this simply as good as it's going to get? And should he just run Audyssey and left-right bypass, call it day? Or is there a more adjustment or measuring that he has to try? Could raising the crossover frequency fix the audible distortion issue? What do we say we should do at this point? Well, yes, that's what I was saying, is that if you raise your crossover to like 120, or maybe even higher for your left and right speakers, then you continue your EQ without having to. You'll EQ above that.
The thing is, it's still going to be applying its original EQ target. Yeah. There's going to be another filter placed on top of it, which will be rolling off the bass, and it might be just enough to ameliorate some of the bass distortion and the violent movement in that bass driver that you're hearing and seeing. But at the same time, like I'm looking at the the most recent measurements that you took after you had repositioned those front left and right speakers. And I'm like, I'm not that concerned if you don't EQ those. Like, that's pretty reasonable response in those before graphs after you had moved them physically closer to the front wall. Like, that's not something that's leaping out at me and saying, oh, you absolutely must have those speakers EQ'd. Like, when the alternative is, hey, when I do EQ them via this process, I get this very massive audible distortion coming in. That's way worse.
Do we know if he has an amplifier or if he's just got a receiver?
It's just the receiver powering things.
So the other thing that you could theoretically do, this is a case where you could get a mini DSP if you had an amp that you went in between here, and you could apply EQ to those speakers before you run Audyssey.
Yeah, that way when Audyssey picks it up, it's not going to detect this big dip and try to over EQ it.
What you would do is EQ down the frequencies that are above this dip, and then let Audyssey then at that point try to EQ the whole thing, and there would not be that big dip that was trying to compensate for.
But I just wanted to confirm, like, if the solution you land on is running it in left-right bypass, in this case, I don't have a big problem with that.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable solution here.
Yeah, and if it sounds okay, then it sounds okay.
Yeah.
So on a totally different note, he attends a church, and the pastor asked David if he could help him figure out why the two speakers in their general purpose room and single in-ceiling speaker in their nursery are too quiet. There are also two more speakers in the main auditorium. He was told it all worked well at some point in the past, but someone came and took the equipment that was in the AV room, and now all that's there is a mixing board. So David took a quick look, and it's a I don't know what this is. Xenix?
Xenix. Yeah, Xenix.
Xenix. I don't know. 1202 FX Studio mixing board, and its 1/4 inch jack outputs are connected to XLR adapter cables. XLR jacks are then connected to longer XLR cables that go directly to the speakers, except the XLR jacks on the speaker ends have been cut off, and the bare wires go into what appear to be wiring blocks from an audio transformer that are wired straight into the speaker drivers. So they're getting line level inputs, basically.
That is certainly what it sounds like XLR line level, which is at a higher voltage sum together than RCA would be. But yeah, it certainly seems like we're just coming straight out of this Xenix mixing board and going now through an audio transformer. So I'm going to have a comment on that in a second. But that's what it seems to be, at least from what David can see.
As far as David can see, there are no audio amplifiers. So is that all there is to it? Does this church just need to get a 5-channel amp? I mean, in theory,
I don't think it's quite that simple here. Looking at what we're dealing with.
Where's the crossover? There's no crossover. It's just full range.
It looks like, yeah. I mean, so we can see the back of the drivers of these speakers, and so it does say 8 ohm, which honestly I'm a little surprised. But it does say 8 ohm on there, but 3 watts, right? So 3 watt, okay. Obviously, not a ton of power is going in here. And then looking at that little audio transformer, I'm like, okay, so this is a setup where it was meant for like a 100-volt system, right? It's like supposed to be the 100-volt level audio, and that's why there's a transformer on there, because the driver is an 8 ohm driver, so it's not a direct connection 70 volt or 100-volt speaker, but that's why it's got the transformer block that's in there. So this is kind of meant for a different system altogether. Now, all it means is you do need one external box that goes in between the mixing board and these speakers. It's just that it wouldn't be a regular like home theater or distribution amplifier that we're used to. What you would need is one that just takes line level and converts it to, I'm pretty sure based on the markings that were on there, that it's the 100-volt system. So it's like, you know how there's the like lighting systems, right, that don't work off of the regular household lighting. There's like the other lighting system, the low voltage lighting. So it's a similar thing in audio. You can have, like, this is typically used for garage systems or outdoor systems or something like that. You have the 70 volt or the 100-volt system, and that's really what this looks like it was meant to work with. So yeah, really all you need is that box that goes between the mixing board and the speakers that converts the line level output from the mixing board to the 100-volt audio system. So given all of the audio shops that are available in Japan that you've frequented
more than
yourself,
one, I imagine.
Yeah, if you tell them that's all you need, they'll be able to. I mean, you'll be able to get one used. You'll be able to get one cheap. This is not a particularly expensive or complicated thing that you're looking for. It's just not a regular home theater audio amplifier. That's all.
Okay. What have I done? I just clicked on
I
the
don't
wrong
know.
thing. All right. His pastor also wants to improve their live stream so that they provide for people who aren't able to attend in person. They're a very small church, but they do their best. Do the best that they can. The pastor has been using an iPhone connected to a Blue Yeti microphone to provide the live streams. He was hoping to improve the quality by getting a dedicated camera and also using the same microphone that they use for the PA system inside the church rather than having two microphones. So is there a way to get the microphone feed out of the mixing board to use with the live stream without messing up the current PA system? So let's look at this. We can't really see the.
Yeah, we don't have all the connections visible on that Xenix.
So you would need a USB preamp and then have an input coming from an output from the mixing board into the preamp that go into the to a computer, which would then connect that for the audio, and then you would get a separate camera.
Yeah, because my biggest question is, what is the device that's actually sending out the stream to the internet? Is it still an iPhone? Because that makes it a lot more complicated.
Yeah, you'd have to do it. You couldn't do it. You'd need a laptop of some sort, at least. Yeah, but once you have the laptop, it's just a matter of making sure you have some sort of output from the mixing board that is,
I mean, it sure looks like there's more than one output from that mixing board. It would be kind of strange for there not to be.
All right, not to be, yeah.
More than one output. Now, I don't know how many of those are being used since there's 3 different rooms that the audio is being already fed to. You wouldn't necessarily need a fourth because we're talking about a single microphone, so this is probably all being summed to mono anyway. Right. So you said there was already only one speaker in the nursery, so there's probably an available output. Like, they come in stereo pairs, so whatever was feeding the nursery, the other one could be your, spare output. So that's really all you need. You have an analog output. Yeah, exactly like Tom said. All you need is analog output that converts to USB. And then you can just plug that into a laptop and stream from there with the new camera also connected via USB to the laptop. But yeah, if the idea was to do with an iPhone, it's not out of the question because you can get dongles that attach to the
you're asking for trouble though.
You're kind of asking for trouble. I mean, somebody in the church must be able to donate a laptop, I would think. Many people have a spare laptop that they're not using anymore, and this is not like a gigantic.
In Japan, there would just be laptops lying on the ground everywhere.
This is not something that requires like a gigantic graphics processor to do anything like that. So a quite old laptop would be able to handle just doing a live stream that is one camera and one analog output converted to USB. So yeah, I would point you to like Behringer as a brand because they have lots of very inexpensive but very decent and perfectly workable analog to USB converters, and that's really all that's needed.
All right. John in Ireland. Soon after getting his new ELAC debut 2.0 front tower speakers, John went ahead and upgraded one of his subwoofers as well. He got an SVS PB1000 Pro on our advice rather than trying to pair his new sub with one of his older, much smaller subs. He's just been using the PB1000 Pro on its own. And what a difference. Until his new speakers and sub arrived, he'd always thought his old 7.2 setup was fine. The new depth and feeling to the sound is so cinematic now. Yeah, everyone thinks that everything's great until they realize that it sucked.
Well,
which is true of almost everything that you have ever owned. If you think about it, like you went out there and you bought something that was, and I'll be honest with you, I just did this. I went to Ace Hardware because we needed a broom for the outside, and there was like a $50 broom there and like a $20 broom there. And I was like, I do not have that much to sweep. I can deal with a terrible broom, like a not great broom, because how bad can it be? It can be significantly worse than a decent broom is what it can be. And now I've got this terrible broom that I'm not going to bring back because I've already used it.
Really was just a waste of $20.
It was just basically throwing $20 away. Sure. People come in all the time with bikes and they're like, I think my bike's perfectly fine. And and then they ride a different bike and they're like, oh my God, this is so much better. I'm like, yeah, perfectly fine meant this is the only thing I know.
By the same token, I'm the person who gets told that with my A1H, I'm just missing out on so much by not having $20,000 separates. So there's a line.
Yeah, it's also true. And now that's his problem because what has he been missing this whole time? He doesn't necessarily want to open up a whole can of worms, but if simply replacing the front speakers and upgrading one subwoofer has made such a difference, how much better could it get? If you were to properly refine everything and perhaps do some more upgrades, he currently has an 85-inch TCL TV. Well, you got to upgrade that. And he's got a Denon X1800H receiver recently. So that's out. Plus his new ELAC debut 2.0 F6 towers, which are fine, I guess. But
goodness.
There's Bowers and Wilkins out there, so let's talk about that. The new the PB1000 Pro, which is a decent sub, but what about the 3000? Have you thought about that? And then his surrounds and surround backs are his old Cat brand floor standing speakers. Well, come on. Let's just get serious here. So his first order of business would be to replace those surrounds and surround backs. He has literal bookcases where the speakers could go. So would bookshelf speakers make the most sense? Any suggestion for specific speakers under $600 Euro a pair that would match a lot better to what he has now? Boy,
so let's just be clear for anyone who doesn't
Yes.
understand sarcasm. Tom was being very sarcastic through all of his comments about the TV and receiver and the subwoofer.
Everything's fine. Everything you have is fine. The lady across the street is painting her house purple.
Okay.
And I'm just watching her do it.
You have been.
I'm like, is it just for Halloween? Or are you going to change it back afterwards?
Right,
I'm a little wondering what's going on over there. So, yes. What you have experienced is those major upgrades. It's like going from a jalopy of a car to a brand new, luxury vehicle of any brand. You're just going to be like, oh my God, this is so much better. How much better could it be if I bought an even nicer luxury brand? Mm-hmm. It can get better. Can it get that much better? No, it can't.
You've happily crossed over into diminishing returns, one of our favorite
to the
things.
Wonderful world of chasing the dragon.
Yeah, diminishing returns does not mean literal no returns. It is diminishing returns. Yeah, I want to take sort of the 10,000 foot view here just to put your mind at ease, because honestly, what he's describing is FOMO, right? It's like, now I know I was missing something all this time. So does that mean I'm still missing something? And like, that's kind of freaking me out at this point. I totally get that. But the 10,000 foot view that I like to reiterate every once in a while is, for when you're beginning home theater, it's like, so you went from nothing, right? TV's built-in speakers to a basic 5.1 setup, or even just a soundbar or something, right? And it's like, it is so much obviously better. And then you get to like a full-blown, like nicely appointed 5.2, I'm going to say, audio system. And it's like, in both of those cases, you went you're getting more sound every time. There was literally sound missing before. Yeah. Stuff that is in the recordings that you were not hearing. Your playback system was just not producing. Your TV speakers definitely weren't. Then the soundbar wasn't. But then you get to this nicely appointed 5.2 system, and you finally have all of the sound actually being produced. And every time you make that sort of upgrade, your eyes kind of widen. You go, I really was like, for real, missing stuff before, and now I'm kind of freaked out. But once you get to, I actually have all the sound finally. And look, that's not as easy as it sounds. Like,
no, it's not.
I finally have all the sound actually being produced. From there, I'm not going to say there is no return to be had, but it's actually a case, I like to say, once you get to I am finally producing all the sound, now the refinement is reducing the amount of sound. It's like lowering the distortion. It's, that's essentially what it is. Various forms of distortion. It's lowering all kinds of various forms of distortion, which is not nearly the kind of wide-eyed, this is such a gigantic big difference. This is tumbling down the rabbit hole a little bit, to the point that sometimes people are getting to the stage of, well, I can literally only see what is technically an improvement on a graph. I've never been able to actually hear it, but I can see it on this graph, and I want to keep chasing that. And like, you do tumble down that rabbit hole. So you've finally gotten to, you're pretty much getting all the sound finally produced, and you've never had that before. You have literally never had all the sounds being produced before. So I want to put your mind somewhat at ease in that the next upgrade you make will not be as big as the upgrade you just did. It will, in effect, be reducing the sounds now, which is not. So
he just has the one sub, though, right?
Thing. He does. Well, and that's going to be his second question coming up. Yeah. But I just want to put in the order that he said, like, should his very next order of business be upgrading his surround speakers? I wouldn't say no. I'm not going to be like, yes, it absolutely is. But I'm also not going to say it definitely shouldn't be. Look, this is pretty easy. You already found ELAC speakers. I would get some ELAC bookshelf speakers if you're going to get anything.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be a fantastic match. You can still find the debut 2.0 series on clearance now that the debut 3.0 series has come out. So you can definitely find those at the price point you're looking for. They are very reasonable speakers. They timbre match perfectly with the towers that you just bought. That's a very easy recommendation. If you, for some reason, cannot find any ELAX bookshelf speaker, I don't know how that would be the case, but if you absolutely cannot, I will say that like Polk's speakers will match up pretty nicely. Not the really expensive ones either. Like the monitor series from Polk is a very reasonable thing that is going to be widely available, including in Australia, at a very reasonable price that'll match up with your ELAC front speakers. So that is a pretty easy, affordable upgrade that you could do. Don't expect replacing your surround and surround back speakers to be anywhere as much of an eye-popping experience as replacing your front towers and your subwoofer, though.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm trying trying not to get ahead of ourselves here because I've got lots of suggestions, but what Rob generally said I agree with, and I hit the microphone again, it's twice now, so it's pretty good for the amount of time I've been on this podcast. That we like to say in like repairing things, like 90% of the repair takes 10% of the work. Right, 90% of getting something "quote unquote" perfect, you get it 90% towards fully perfect with 10% of the work, but getting that extra 10% takes 90% of the time.
Yeah, there you go.
And this is sort of it. You're at the point now where you're like, oh my god, I've made this huge upgrade, and now I would like to make another huge up. No, that does not happen. These diminishing returns are very real, and you're going to experience them, and things are going to become very subtle. But you can experience upgrades. It's not going to be this night and day difference that you're experiencing. Going from nothing to something is a big difference. Going from something to something a little bit better, or maybe even a lot better, is less noticeable because of the fact that you always had something there. It's just now better something. So his room is roughly 15 by 20 feet, and even though it's a living room, it does actually have a door that can close it off from the rest of the house. So would adding a second PB1000 Pro at the back of the living room help him to optimize his experience? We've talked a lot about the joys and the importance of having dual subs, and I will stand by every bit of what we have said. This is an enclosed space, he's saying. It doesn't necessarily mean it's rectangular, but it's an enclosed space. And that means that you can pressurize that space without having to pressurize the entire house. Will a PB1000 Pro at the back optimize the experience? Well, many times when you go from one sub to another, and I'll link a couple articles up here for maybe gadgets that I've written, because I've written extensively on this subject. When you go from one sub to two subwoofers, a lot of times what you experience is not I had nothing, I'm going to now have the thing that I no longer have. What you have is, I don't feel like I have as much bass as I have before until something explodes or something happens on the screen or in the music that creates a lot of bass, and then you have a lot of bass. So you have the exact amount of bass that you were always supposed to have. So many times with a single subwoofer, and we're talking about this kind of with the guy in Japan, is your room or your subwoofer placement or whatever it is creates extra bass in some areas and less bass in other frequencies, right?
And particularly if you do care about more than just one seat in your living room, then the experience from seat to seat to seat can vary drastically when you only have one subwoofer.
So what I would, what people will notice is like, hey, during this part of this movie that I have seen many times, my room usually rattles. And now I've got two subwoofers, and there's no longer rattling. Why have I lost bass? Well, you didn't lose bass. What you lost was a crazy hump in your frequency response that was exciting a room mode that created distortion, that created things to be shaking in your room.
But you see what I mean? The improvement you just gained was actually less sound.
That's right.
You've refined it.
So what was happening with your room correction or whatever, it was that it was trying to deal with this extra bass by lowering the volume there, which also lowered the volume kind of everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It created a situation where your room correction was not, or even you were not able to turn the bass up as loud as maybe as it should be for other frequencies, because then that frequency would distort and get even worse. Mm-hmm. So when you created this, when you added your second subwoofer, you no longer have this huge hump in this area. So now the entire level of bass overall has gotten higher, so that when there does need to be bass, it feels like there's even more bass than there was before, because it is able to play at the volume it was always meant to be played at, if that makes sense to you. So this is not technically 100% accurate, but this is sort of the general overview of how this room correction thing and your subwoofer interacting with your room and having that second subwoofer kind of evens everything out, creates less bass in some areas, but then feels like more bass in others. So you'll be sitting there watching movies going, man, there's usually a lot of bass going on during this time, and there's nothing. And then there is the moment when there's supposed to be a bunch of bass, and you're like, my chair is rattling, and my eyes are jiggling, and all sorts of things are happening that don't normally happen. And this is amazing. And that's kind of what Rob means when he says that there is less bass and more bass at different times.
Yeah. So, I mean, I am certainly in favor in this setup that you've described that as long as it's affordable, don't put yourself into debt to do this like hastily. But, if you've got the money on hand, yes, I do think adding a second subwoofer to this setup will be an improvement. Which one would I do first? Second sub or replace the surround speakers? That's kind of tough because, I mean, you have surround speakers. It's not like you're completely lacking them. Me personally, I would probably get the second sub first as long as I can afford it.
Yes, I agree with that. The only thing is the only reason why I might not agree with that is because your surround speakers are towers, which is very strange.
Oh, I can make an argument. If you said, hey, I decided to get the surround speakers first, I'm like, you're not going to hear a complaint from me for doing that.
Yeah. You're not... with the possibility of some very strange things happening in your room and maybe a really bad mismatch between your new speakers and your old speakers, I would doubt that you would notice a major timbre difference or a difference in the amount of surround information that you're having in your room. It might be overall a smoother surround experience, but I don't necessarily know that it will be this kind of blow you away thing. So if you're looking for more of a bang for your buck sort of upgrade, the second subwoofer will definitely make it so that from seat to seat things will sound better as long as you place them properly, which I'll link.
He's doing pretty good. One at the front, one at the back. That's about as good as you can do.
Yeah, as long as they're mirrored sort of thing. Yeah, so but I could go either way. So as he said, he used to think his own 7.2 system sounded fine, and now he thinks his new front speakers and single PB1000 Pro sound great. But if he didn't know what he was missing before, that means he still doesn't know what he might be missing now, right? Should he be looking to use the SVS app? Should he be messing with its parametric EQ and other settings? That
was a dog bark.
I'm going to go beat that dog in a second here, but I won't really, but I will fuss at her. How does he go about refining a setup so he isn't left wondering if he is missing out on even better performance? They never knew it was possible. I'll be back.
Yes, Tom will be back. So yeah, look, I'm gonna say the thing that might not be super exciting to you, but since you are dealing with a situation where it's like you're questioning yourself, then I'm just gonna come right out and say it. It's time to listen to some sweeps. Right? Because if you're only evaluating on watching movies and TV shows, it's like you don't know for certain how that was supposed to sound. It's you're comparing it to what you've heard before, and maybe you like it better or you like it less. But it's tough to say like I'm getting what I'm supposed to be getting. So this is where you can start listening to sweeps, because there right? It's supposed to be every single one of these sounds is supposed to sound equally as loud as the other sounds, and you can start to pick up on where am I getting deficiencies, and not just some sounds when I play this frequency sweep are clearly louder or quieter than others, but also how is that changing if I move from my primary seat to my couch's left seat to my couch's right seat? Am I getting non-uniformity? That's going to be the sort of thing that you can start to, try to improve upon. Those differences are not anywhere as big as I used to just be purely missing sound, and now I'm getting that sound for the first time. Again, this is all going to be a less impressive improvement. But that's what you need to start with, is listening to those sweeps to get that sort of baseline understanding of, hey, what's really happening in my room? Which frequencies are louder or quieter than the rest of the frequencies? Which frequencies are non-uniform across my 3-seater couch? If you discover that, hey, across my 3-seater couch, it's uniform that at 60 hertz, which my subwoofer is playing, it's always much too loud at 60 hertz versus all of the other frequencies. You could definitely use the parametric EQ that's built right into the SVS subwoofer to tame that particular hump down. That's something you could do. But you might discover that, hey, in my left seat, 60 hertz is louder than all the other frequencies. In my right seat, 60 hertz is quieter than all the others. And it's like, oh, there's my justification for getting the second subwoofer, because that's something that only adding a second sub across from the first sub in your room could do. The parametric EQ is not going to be able to make it louder in one seat and simultaneously quieter in a different seat. So it's getting that baseline, listening to those sweeps, and getting the understanding of what's happening in your room first. That's how you can start to feel like, oh, I better understand what's happening in my room, so now I'm not so confused and worried that I'm missing something.
Being worried about missing something is a very good way to start looking at graphs so closely that you don't understand.
I'm saying
you
listen.
Stop having fun.
I'm saying listen. I'm not telling you to go get a measurement microphone and do all that yet. That is tumbling down the rabbit hole. I'm saying listen, because you'll be able to hear it, but not in such a granular and, oh, I didn't hear that, but I can see it sort of way that you question yourself even more. It's like, no, trust me. If you play even just bass sweeps, even only bass sweeps through your single subwoofer right now, even if you don't play sweeps through any of your other speakers, and you sit in all 3 seats of your 3-seater couch, you're going to be like, oh, I didn't realize that from seat to seat it changed that much. It's going to be an eye-opening experience for you. It's going to be fun.
And I hate to, because we are very worried about, objective truth here when it comes to home theater and that sort of thing. But objective truth isn't always superior to subjective experience. So when you are in your home theater and you are objectively looking at a graph that you have made with Room EQ Wizard and the measurement microphone and saying, see right here, it's not as even in this seat as it is from that seat, or this is not a perfectly flat line, or this is not within plus or minus 3 dB. How can I fix it? But when you sit there and listen to sweeps, you're like, well, it sounds completely and totally even. It doesn't. There's very little variation.
Or I can hear a little bit of a difference, but it's not that big of a difference.
It's minor. That is, there is a point where you should be like, listen, objectively, I know that this speaker cannot play this low. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I need to get one that does. And there's, objectively, I know that these speakers are not able to fill this space with sound, or to take that will require more power than my amplifier or my receiver can provide in order to get the sound levels that I require at my seat. You can objectively get these things measured and understood and fixed, but then at some point you're just like, okay, things are objectively getting better, but subjectively they sound the same. Therefore, what am I really spending my money on? Yeah. So you're not quite there yet, but it tips over into that realm very quickly when you start getting everything you need in your room. I find that making sure that your experience in your room is good in the sense of aesthetics and how things look and how things feel when you're in there, versus trying to get objectively the best thing. I think that it's important to recognize that going into a room and having everybody in there being like, yeah, this is great. We love this. Mm-hmm. Versus I had to climb over a subwoofer to get into this seat because you told me it sounds better this way. I think there's something to be said for that. So Greg asks, is Rob getting Dirac ART for his A1H? And the answer is, of course, yes. He's going to.
Possibly. I am actually, for once, going to wait until I know I'm actually going to use it. So it could be a while. But I'm certainly not saying no. It is definitely a possibility.
And speaking of Dirac ART, Greg was wondering, since it uses all of the speakers and subwoofers in your system to supposedly control sound wave interactions in your room, that means that, let's say there's a sound playing strictly from the front left channel of a recording. Normally, without Dirac ART, the only speaker making any sound would be the front left speaker. But with Dirac ART, now all of the speakers play something? So does that reduce headroom for the entire audio system? Are the amplifiers in your AV receiver going to have to work extra hard all the time now? And could that result in a loss of dynamic headroom? And are we now closer to an actual all channels driven situation where using Dirac ART is going to necessitate having beefier amps all around? So if my understanding is correct, and I might not be, of Dirac ART, the idea is that it sends out the equivalent of interference waves going.
It's counter waves. It is not completely dissimilar from active noise cancellation.
Yeah.
It's
in order to to stop certain room corrections going on. Do these have to be as loud as the sounds that are coming out of the actual speakers, or does it mean that every speaker is now playing some sounds in order to counteract whatever waves are coming at it? Maybe, but not. Probably not.
Well, it's definitely bandwidth limited. The other speakers are definitely quieter than the main speaker. Like if it's a single sound in a single channel, the other speakers are not all playing equally loud. It is limited bandwidth. There are delays involved as well, so it isn't literally simultaneous.
Right.
So it is not all channels driven. It is definitely not that. But we are asking your system to produce more sound in total than it used to be. I guess. Like strictly technically speaking, that somewhat reduces headroom. Like if all of the power is in an AV receiver, so it's all a shared pool of power, then we have in some way reduced the total theoretical headroom of the system, but then there's a limit. It's not as though you can put all of the power supply in an AV receiver into a single speaker channel and channel all of it in there. You're limited by the output transistors on each individual channel. So realistically speaking, I don't think this would be tremendously noticeable unless your system was already on the verge of, being at its maximum output capabilities for any individual given channel. Now you're going to be reducing that total pool of power. But the main thing is that from some of the early reports I've heard of people who have gotten this early, it does seem as though you have to be pretty darn careful. First of all, it seems as though everyone agrees if you've got a really well-treated room and you already had 4 subwoofers in that room, like Dirac Live ART makes very little audible difference because you already had a really good acoustic space. It seems as though people are finding, hey, when I tried this out in my completely untreated great room, it made a much bigger audible difference.
Sure.
And look, that actually makes a ton of sense. Like that's super useful because the idea is it is active room treatment. It is you use it in a place where you can't put passive room treatment. Like, how many questions do we get of people saying, yeah, this is my living room, this is my great room. The decorating committee will not allow me to put acoustic panels in here.
They allow you to spend $1,000 on Dirac ART?
That's
might be the solution to the problem right there.
There you go. So I don't have any beef with that, actually. I think that makes total perfect sense. It makes a ton of sense. And the value could honestly really, really be there. You just have a scenario where you can't put up passive room treatments that are thick enough to be effective. This could be a really good solution. But the other thing is people are saying like, yeah, you got to be really careful with how much of the frequency range you use Dirac Live ART with, because if you raise it, I think it lets it go as high as 250 hertz or something like that. It's like some people have said, okay, I'm in my treated room. I'm experimenting with it. I raised it to be active all the way up to 250 hertz. And it's like I started to be able to localize some of the counterwave sounds. So it's like the sound is supposed to be coming strictly from my front right speaker, and I could hear my surround left speaker making some sound, like in response to that signal. So you got to be kind of careful with it. It also does say, hey, this is predominantly for bass. It's definitely like below the room's transition frequency is where all of this is targeted. So if you have very bandwidth limited speakers, speakers that genuinely need to be crossed over at 110, 120 hertz, it's like you got pretty limited effectiveness of where those speakers are going to be able to contribute anything to the Dirac Live ART system. So as we surmised, it's like, yep, when they originally announced it, they're like, hey, the ideal is full range speakers all around so that you can have all the speakers play the entire frequency range. Now that would eat up some dynamic headroom from your AV receivers amplifiers, no question about it.
Right. Yeah. So this would what would happen if Rob got it. He would get it, he would test it out, and then he would have to take all of his room treatments out of his room and then test it again to see some sort of A-B situation there. And I do not see Dirac ART as being sort of the next iteration in room correction. I see it being a solution for bad rooms that can't be fixed.
Hey, we finally got to actual room correction. Like, the name has been a misnomer for so long. I'm like, that could actually be awesome. Where it's like, if we could genuinely say
expensive.
Well, a little bit, but I mean, like, think about how much truly effective passive room treatments in a big open living room, big open great room. Like, think about how much that would genuinely cost us. Like, if this is a real solution to that for $800, I'm like, that is not bad.
And referring to our previous questioner, I'm just calling him John in Ireland, this could be something that can be turned on and off, and you could certainly, in theory, you might be able to hear that kind of wow difference that that he was talking about. Like, hey, oh my God, I'm really hearing a huge difference.
Can't do it with an X1800H though. That doesn't have the 4 subwoofer.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have what he needs yet. So we're going to have to see this, unfortunately, come down in price quite a bit, I think, so that it can be integrated into things that might actually use it. Versus, only the very, very high end stuff.
Sure.
We'll see. Let's do one more. Henry says, crystal ball time. We've been seeing most of the Ultra HD Blu-ray players getting discontinued. The Samsung and the LGs have stopped making them. And ones that are still around from Panasonic and Sony haven't seen updates in years, or updated models in years. Do we think they might follow a similar trajectory as CD players? For a while there, it got really hard to find new CD players for sale, but more recently, quite a few brands have reintroduced brand new CD player models, and now they're quite easy to find. Could it be a case where if we just hang in there long enough, Ultra HD Blu-ray players will come back around in like 10 years from now? They'll be retro and cool again. I think we'll see, more likely to see something like that's basically, a universal player. It's like, hey, if we're going to put out a player, why not have it do everything? Or most things. And that would include
in a way, if the crowd you're going after, like, why is it specifically CD players that have started re-entering the market that only play CDs? They don't play DVDs. They don't play DVD audio. They don't play SACD. It's like they only play CDs. And it's like, sometimes it's that whole, I don't trust anything that does more than one thing. If it specializes in one thing, it must be better. So I don't think he's off the mark. That, like, if the idea is that the only way it comes back is by being retro, then, I mean, look, an Ultra HD Blu-ray player is going to play more than just Ultra HD Blu-rays. It's going to play Blu-rays as well. But it's like, is it just going to come back around the way cassettes have started coming back around? Like, do we just have to wait that amount of time and it'll be retro and cool again?
I don't know. I don't know. I thought this question was going to be, because I read the first line before I read the rest of it just now. And I thought this question was going to be like, what's going to be the next medium by which we get stuff? And will there be another physical medium that we start playing things from or buying things from? And I think it could happen, but it has to be different. Like, we've gone CDs to DVDs to Blu-rays to Ultra HD Blu-rays, and they all look exactly the same.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because we had the manufacturing process that could be updated each time to stamp them out in a hurry.
I feel like the next iteration of physical media has to physically look different to get people interested in wanting to literally touch it. because that's sort of the tactile feel of something or something being brand new. You kind of want to like, I know what a CD tape feels like. I know what the Ultra HD Blu-ray feels like. They feel exactly the same. So to get people to want to try a new medium of physical media, it's going to have to be different. Will Ultra HD Blu-rays eventually completely die? I don't know that they will.
Like, here's the thing. DVD, and I mean DVD. I don't just mean like the shape of the disc, but like DVD is going to be around for a long time yet. Like, if you just see the number of DVDs, don't think Blu-rays or Ultra HD Blu-rays, but DVDs that are sold every year still, it's like that is going to be around. So, yeah, I don't think that there will literally be no Ultra HD Blu-ray players for a long, long time. They might get more and more expensive. I don't think we're going to see a lot of updates for them. But I don't think it's one that's going to utterly disappear. And I'm going to say it's because DVD is still around, not Ultra HD Blu-ray, but somebody's going to keep putting out an Ultra HD Blu-ray player, and DVD is going to be the thing that keeps it all alive. That's my prediction anyway. Can we do just one more so that we get to at least half?
Questions left, and they're really freaking long. I just scrolled to the bottom, and
it's not like you couldn't see what was there, Tom.
I never look. I don't look. This is all a surprise to me. Why would I look?
We are playing catch up. We did miss a week, but we're going to have a lot of catch up. But yeah, if we can do one more, at least we got to half.
All right. Leighton. Leighton has a first-gen Emotiva XPA3 amp. It's starting to have some problems. Anytime he turns it on, it powers itself down within 15 minutes and shows a flashing red light. But strangely, if you restart it again after that, it will run for hours without shutting itself down again. However, while it seems to stay powered up after the initial shutdown, it doesn't sound right. So this is my question, because I did read a little bit of this. Does it sound right before it shuts down? And then it sounds wrong after?
That was not clear from the email in the wording, but yeah.
So voices after it shuts down, at least, maybe before, we don't know. Voices are really shrill and everything sounds harsh and noisy. He swapped speakers and anything connected to the Emotiva amp sounds this way. The same speakers sound fine when connected to any other amp he owns, so it's definitely the XPA3 that's the problem. Naturally, he could inquire about a repair, but our comments about Buckeye amps and their Hypex Encore and Purify Eigentalk offerings really got him curious. Is there a specific model we would recommend from them as a replacement for his Gen 3 1 or Gen 1, sorry, Gen 3 1. What the heck did that come from? Oh, from the XPA 3 amp from Emotiva. So,
yeah.
There you go. So the current one is what, 1750?
Yeah, so the XPA3 Gen 3 is presently priced at $1,750. I just wanted to put that in there for context because we're mentioning the prices from Buckeye. I don't want it to be completely out of context for that. Now, the XPA3 Generation 1 was a 200 watts per channel into 8 ohms times 3, of course. So that's the sort of wattage we were looking at. The price was definitely lower back in the day, but if you were to get, buy a brand new straight replacement from Emotiva, you'd obviously be looking at the Gen 3, which is rated higher in its power output than the Generation 1 was. So it's not exactly apples for apples, but 1750 is about what you're looking for the over 200 watts per channel from Emotiva. So yeah, the easiest one to point to in terms of getting the lowest price and at least 3 amplifier channels would be based on the Hypex Encore 502 modules. Now, those 502 modules only exist as stereo pair modules. So to get 3 or more, you're looking at the 4-channel model, and that sells for $1,250 over at Buckeye. So it's less expensive than the current XPA Gen 3. And it is very, very similar in terms of maximum and sustained output power to your Generation 1 XPA3. This is straight up. Even though Buckeye, I don't love the way they list their specs for the wattage, because they do the thing where these Class D amplifiers, basically you can drive them all the way up to like their clipping point and they stay like really consistent, and then they are like, they don't gradually go up in distortion above their clipping point, they just like hit a cliff. And so they don't respond exactly the same way that Class AB amplifiers do. So when you say that one of these Hypex or Purify Class D amplifiers has like maximum output of 380 watts into 8 ohms or something, it's like, you kind of cut that about in half, like pretty kind of close to it. So the Encore 502 modules, like those are 200 watt amplifiers easy, 200 watts into 8 ohms, exact same rating as your Generation 1 XPA3. And then if you rate them that way instead of the maximum rating that Buckeye puts on their specs page, it's like then they have similar amount of headroom as what your XPA3 has. So that's what I'm saying. You get 4 of those channels for $12.50. That'd be a pretty like straight ahead replacement with lower distortion and lower noise floor than your XPA3 ever had. I'm a big fan of these Hypex Encore amps and the Purify Eigentact amplifiers. Now, if you're like, I want a 3-channel amp, I don't want a 4-channel amp, and I want at least 200 watts per channel, the price goes up a little bit. If you want to go over to the Purify Eigentact, then Buckeye is using their 2nd generation modules now, the 6525 SA. You can get that in a 3-channel configuration for $15.50. So it's not that much less expensive, but it's a little bit less expensive than the current Emotiva. And that is very, very similar wattage to the less expensive 4-channel NC502. This is a 200 watts per channel into 8 ohms amplifier. I can very comfortably say that. If you're wanting brand new Class D amplification, that is actually much more similar to the XPA3 Generation 3, right? So a higher wattage than what your Generation 1 XPA3 could deliver. Then the Encore, the NCX 500 3-channel amplifier that Buckeye sells for $1,600. So all 3 of these options are less expensive than the current Emotiva XPA3 Generation 3. But the NCX 500, that is at least 250 watts, very close to 300 watts per channel into 8 ohms, like very much sustained. It has headroom above that. They call it the NCX 500 because they're like, it's kind of a 500 watt amplifier, but like I say, kind of cut that in half if you want similar headroom to what a very similar Class AB would deliver. So it's like it's definitely 250 watts, pretty darn close to 300 watts sustained, and with some headroom above that. So yeah, all 3 of those would be great choices from Buckeye. If you were just looking to save the most money, I would contact Emotiva because they I don't know if they're actually repairing the Gen 1 anymore. I don't know if they have the parts to repair those anymore. This sounds like something has definitely gone awry, but there might be something they're able to do for you. But if you're just like, I'm looking to make the change, I wanted to switch over to Class D anyway, they definitely run cooler. There is no question that they generate less heat. They straight up have lower distortion and lower noise floor in these brand new amps. So you're not getting nothing for spending the money to replace the amplifier entirely.
Yeah, I would contact Emotiva first for sure. I mean, it's free
if it's about money. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, who do we have left?
We have a whole bunch left, but we got Ryan, we've got Nate. I got to scroll down a ways. We got Jack and Greg together because they asked a thing about a similar YouTube video that went up. We've got Chris, we've got Ahmad, and did we have one more below that? Because there's a whole bunch of pictures in that one. James, and I can say Jason's came in on Monday. So we got oodles and oodles. We're definitely playing catch up, but we will do so. We'll answer things first in, first out. We were playing catch up this week in personal lives and news and everything that we missed last week because of my illness. I managed to get through this mostly okay. Just a couple of cough and blow my nose breaks that I hopefully weren't too disruptive. I don't think anyone really noticed.
I didn't notice, but I wasn't looking at you. So
yes.
I want to thank our listeners of the week. I want to thank Tim for going to avrant.com, clicking on the buy us a cup of coffee
link.
Acting
like Timothy is a really weird name. It's a very normal name.
So, I'll be honest with you. Like Tom, I don't know anybody that goes by Thomas. I'm sure there are people who do
go by Thomas,
but
yeah.
It's just I feel like but it often puts Thomas as my name when it auto corrects,
sure,
or auto inserts things, and I'm like, don't call me Thomas. I mean, you can. I will respond to it, and I will not be offended. Just like I'm sure Tim here is not offended by Timothy, but or maybe he's offended by Tim. I don't know. That's why I'm being a little weird about it, because I would rather call people by what they want to be called,
sure.
What they're comfortable being called. And some people get really bent out of shape if you use the wrong name.
Well, I mean, if they haven't informed you, that's not fair.
Well, that's true. But, at the same time, I'm just trying to be a little bit sensitive about it, because Timothy to me sounds extremely formal, or I
really don't think it's that strange of a name.
Whatever. So anyways, Tim, thank you.
Yes, Timothy, thank you so very much for your PayPal donation. We appreciate that financial support.
We also thank our 127 patrons over at patreon.com, including John, Ahmad, and James. Thank you for supporting us monthly.
Yes, for sure. That is patreon.com/AVRant podcast if you'd like to sign up to make an automatic monthly donation. So big thanks to our 127 patrons over there. John, Ahmed, and James, thank you all very much for being 3 of them.
All right. Well, thank Dan for offering to make me some AVRant drink coasters, which I will hopefully send you an email about very soon. And if I have not, by the time you hear this podcast, hit me up again, because I got a text from the construction guys, and I got to go right after this podcast and talk to them.
Well, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Greg and Kurt, for sending me movie codes to test for you. I tested them and they work. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Greg and Kurt.
And we also got notes of gratitude for keeping the podcast going from Raf, Daniel, Gurinder, Nathan, Karl, John, Greg, Dan, Tim, Nate, Jack, Ahmed, and James. Thank you for thanking us.
Yes, I'll say the names one more time. We got Raf, Daniel, Gurinder, Nathan, Karl, John, Greg, Dan, Tim, Nate, Jack, Ahmed, and James. Thank you all so much for those notes of gratitude and encouragement. We really appreciate them. And a big, big thank you to everybody who continues to listen and send in your questions.
If you want to get your question answered on this podcast, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. For AVRant, I'm Tom Antry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.